So we've got the stacks right here. Elton was chip leading 84, Danny 77, Dan up at 60. Alexander Shilikin, 48. You're at 39 with just Mario below you, 32, and JNT's got 26. So really deep stack final table, especially for a Triton. You can see this was the 200k Invitational. You can see Ilkin Garibli gets 8th for 540. So this is a massive tournament.
Yep.
So Dan had 60. Raised the cutoff King 2 suited. Danny snap folds the ace 3-0. He's definitely shorter. Is that any mix at all for you or just easy fold?
I think pretty easy fold.
And you've got 9-4 of diamonds. So you do go for the defend. Is this close?
I don't really think so. When you get deeper, it becomes quite different. So like we are a bit under 40 big blinds now. I mean, after I paid ante 38 or 37 point something. And I think suited hands, basically you can probably defend anything. I mean, like there's the very bottom suited hands are close. And then in the offsuit range, you will maybe like offsuit eights, like then some of the connected bottom, like you can defend fairly wide here to like slightly over min when you still like there's obviously payout implications, like you obviously want to adjust slightly, but I wouldn't adjust too crazy because it's not like 12 big blinds deep where you have to stack off like second pairs and stuff. You still can navigate quite a bit. You can select your hand strength on flops and turns. So I don't think that you need to make too tight adjustments here.
What if we tweak this? If we go online and you're looking at, maybe 5 of 73, so there's less antes in there and flatter payouts. Could it get close there or no?
It gets closer, but still, like, I'd still defend it.
Got it. Queen 7-3. You flop the flush draw. Dan bets just a drop under 33. What do you think about his situation? 60 big blinds into your little under 40. What percent of range do you think he ought to be betting?
Like range?
Got it.
I mean, from the cutoff, it changes slightly as well to the button that we had previously. You can open fairly, like relative to cutoff opens. You can open fairly wide here, like maybe a tad wider than chip EV. And nevertheless, I think since I am not defending like I'm defending tighter than chip EV for sure, and I leave out like lots of defense that are like in the offsuit range, which will lead to probably maybe 10% less defending or so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this board you will go very high c-bet frequency, and I personally would just range bet it.
So deep stack final table, you're not often playing 38 bigs, especially as one of the shorter stacks. I'm always curious about check raise thresholds here, what your queen jack, queen king is looking like, how often, maybe a 7 mixes in as compared with chips. Do you have an idea where you might have cut your thresholds in this situation?
I mean, queen jack, I personally would not raise at a relevant frequency here. Like less than 50, not like where I'd say, oh, queen jack you always have to raise.
Sure.
Like I would play not a very wide raising range here. I think some pocket threes, sevens, queen 7, 7-3 suited, pure, and king, queen, ace, queen I also have here. So like ace, queen basically pure, and king, queen like quite often, and queen, jack like not so often, and queen 10 basically never. Kind of like roughly around this. And then in terms of bluffs, it's just going to be a wild mix of low frequency, different stuff like 4-5, 5-6, 4-6, some flush draws, some pairs, the best ones are basically I might raise some 7-5, 7-6 rarely here. I might raise some 3-4, 3-5, 3-6 suited rarely here. I might raise some like, I mean, king 5 of spades is maybe stretching it, but maybe, you know, like ace 5 of spades, I might, you know, not check call and just check raise it. So like these are type of candidates I'm thinking about.
So I feel like there's a few really naturally appealing candidates that you always have for chips here that just might not be in your defend range. You know, I'm thinking about the king of diamonds 4, king of diamonds 5, and king of diamonds 6. Do you think you were defending those in this situation?
I mean, king 4 for sure not.
Yeah.
Like,
it seems like 9 candidates that might just disappear, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part for sure. Like, yeah. I mean, it's probably just going to be like king 10, king of diamonds rather than.
That's what I'm wondering, if that now just jumps up in terms of frequency when you lose those other ones.
Yeah, sure. I think I missed a few, like, I think I said the straight draws, backdoor flush draw, and then, yeah, I missed the offsuit diamonds is like ace 5, ace of diamonds, very, very nice candidate, like king 10, king of diamonds, king jack, king of diamonds.
But then you're looking at also if some frequency of the ace 4, ace 5 possibly hit him with a 3-bet pre, so maybe we lose a quarter of those or something.
That's correct.
I just think it's an interesting puzzle trying to look these through. And then, you know, what it leads me to is often I'm thinking to myself, well, if we don't have those bluffs, are we replacing them with something else? Or is it just that our bluffs have come way down because, as you pointed out, the value threshold is tighter, but the defend threshold was tighter? Like, which is the most important in all of that? And do we want to have more equity? Like we just jack up our 7x check raises?
I mean, I don't think you have troubles finding bluffs, to be honest. I think the more difficult point is to find the right frequencies to be somewhat spread across different, like to just be decently, like not too heavily weighted towards one, where like you always have, you know, you check raise like 75% of your 4-5, 5-6, 4-6, because I am defending 4-5 off and 5-6 off. So like that's quite a lot, and that's I think the stuff to watch out for that I probably only raise like with a diamond. And so
if we're keeping this narrow size, or sorry, this narrow range, do you have an inclination towards a certain size
in terms of raising? Yeah, I mean, more leaning like I don't think this is a spot where it's gonna be like too crazy. Like I think that, for example, like let's say you have pocket threes, like it's very different than whether you have 3-7 suited or threes, I would say. So there's probably incentive for two different sizings, but like I wouldn't be able to execute that and then split my bluff frequencies properly between those two sizings. So like I think I generally would probably go into like a between 50 and 75% pot. So like 3.5, 3.7, like, yeah, something along those lines.
I love the breakdown because you can kind of, you know, you're articulating where there are patches of ignorance. I don't know exactly here or whatnot. And then you're trying to craft a practical strategy out of what you do know. And then just you're drawing on heuristics from other spots that you do know.
I mean, this is basically a spot where nobody like.
Exactly. And they come up constantly in final tables, especially deep stack. But, you know, that's the thing is you have to have a good poker mind, not just, you know, have memorized certain spots when you're talking about post flop play.
This is a fair candidate to check raise as well, I'd say.
Makes sense. do opt for call and turn a pair. Pretty welcome turn.
Yep.
So what do we think about Dan's spot here? We can see he barrels was 4 into 590, so this is just under or just over 66. You see this hand class a lot in solvers just go ballistic. He, I think Petrangelo calls it the bad boy corner.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this will sound weird to some players, but I would consider it fairly standard.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference maker at the super high stakes is that kind of everyone sees this. Just you've seen it so many times appear in solver with very little ambiguity. But when you are playing lower or mid stakes, both one less, maybe studied, but also maybe the call range from the big blind is tighter. So you're already walking into a stronger range. Not to say it's bad against, mid stakes players, but maybe in some cases producing a little bit less EV. Can also see the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if they defend very tight pre, they might have, just very condensed toward Queen X, and that can be the case. But generally speaking, like there will be enough 7X and 3X and like weaker flush draws that just have to surrender. So you get a decent risk reward.
So nothing to do but call here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, raise doesn't seem to accomplish much.
I would have preferred a 5 of diamonds or 5 of spades.
Those sound like nice cards.
Yeah.
Shooting a glance over. What do you got, Dan? I'm watching you. Now I want to see the river. Oh, not my river. No leads.
No. I mean, I don't have. I mean,
what do you think of Dan's spot?
With his particular hand or in general?
With this particular hand.
I think you have just one choice, basically.
Mm-hmm. What looks like a bluff you would give up in Dan's situation, aside from having paired your jack?
The most logical ones would probably be like weak diamonds, but even those go in. So even if you have 4, 5, 5, 6 of diamonds, you just fire, I think. So the thing here is I think you might be at a threshold where like there's not very much you will give up if you play properly.
Mm-hmm.
Because some stuff will get there and some stuff will check now because it improved. So from drawing from your pool where like you added some value dropped out because it can't value bet anymore. Like you might not be able to value, like kings is getting like close, but probably but like if you have king queen, you can't value bet anymore.
I think king's king of diamonds is like slightly better. Block king 10 of diamonds.
Yeah.
I can see it reversing too.
Not ace king, probably. Like maybe you give up ace king because you win sometimes. Like that's the only hand I can kind of think of that.
Makes sense. So let's talk about your spot here. You do face the shove. Pretty painful situation. 7 left.
I mean,
correct, and you're out.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, there's not really much to talk about. Like, practically, though, I just, this is one of those spots where I think if it's a 25K, I would probably always call. Like, I was so, like, in this moment already, like, sometimes, sometimes there's certain hands where I feel nothing, and then sometimes I start to feel things, like, way early already. It's not always right, like, by far not, but I feel it's like I've placed a lot of bets in my career, like in terms of poker decisions on this, and like this was one hand where I remember very vividly that I felt like something weird from the flop already. Mm-hmm. And I think especially on the turn, like very often I think it's like this is one spot where I'm extremely sensitive to bet sizes. And I think this is one spot where I just lean to, like, I mean, this is now talking a little bit out of my book, but it's very, very easy, like when you don't know exactly your strategy on the spot, right? You don't know exactly how you play like 38 BB effective, like after, like this board, c-bet turn, like second flush draw. You don't know if you play b60, b66, or b75 when, when SPR is whatever, like 1.8 or like, so, or more, 2 point something. So, right, like on the turn.
Oh, you're talking before he bets turn.
Yeah, like
SPR
2.
too.
Yeah. So when SPR is 2, like, what the geometrical bet size looks like, but it feels very easy. Like it's not that solver always wants to just bet geometrical, especially when there's certain on certain board structures, it just leans to like kind of front load the bet size a little bit because there's like more equity. At least my explanation is that there's more change in equity possible, so you charge a little bit more on that street where there's actually hands with that can improve the stuff.
Yep.
And I think this is a good case where if you have kings, no spade, no diamond, it's just like, why do you want to bet? Why do you want to bet b60? Or he bet like 400 into like 590. Like I think
it was 66.
Yeah, like so. It was just one of these. This wasn't particular like, oh, he bet this side, but it was just like the culmination of different things where like already like I started feeling like, this something here feels off. And then I'm on the river, and it's like one of those rivers where I think when you're bluffing, I think it's just very easy to, like you're always going to bet this river basically.
Yeah, you can feel confident. You're saying he's not going to be exuding much nerves in the situation. You just kind of know you're right.
No, but also you're like, now you have to, right? If like, let's say the river is a 7, you're like, okay, maybe you give up. But like,
makes sense.
This now is like, no, I got, like there's so much stuff getting, like, I just got to, so it's like, it feels like it's not a spot where, it's a spot where I feel when he's bluffing, and let's say he has ace deuce or king deuce or like 5-6 of diamonds or 6-8 suited, like hands he probably shouldn't really bet on turn, but like,
yeah, cool.
In case he does have that, it just feels like, he's always going to bluff river. But yeah, sure. It was just one of those moments, like not really much theory behind that. It's always a fold on river. But it just felt like something was fishy.
Makes sense. And super tough spot. Like we said, Dan's situation seems clear, but he does execute, does make the bet. And that's certainly when you find that turn barrel, you're going to need to on that river. You did, I have this clip pared down, but you took some time banks there. You really wanted to call. You were talking about it. That was a pivotal pull.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, this clip doesn't reflect how.
No, you took a lot of time. We pared these down to under 90 seconds. Yeah. Tough spot.